this week we shall be talking about the Christian perspective concept of life and death. You see, why we're going to talk about that? Because we are very much westernized, and in Hong Kong, the education, actually the people's civilization has been, very much influenced by the Christian philosophy. So that's why it's very important topic, and also maybe to your surprise, it has been very influential to both elderly or young people. So, and actually it's one of the very important perspective. So that's why now I will share with you the PowerPoint, and then later on we can do some discussion at the end like last time. Okay, so you guys been able to get the PowerPoint? Okay, yep. Let's see, right. Okay, yep. Okay, so any of you are Christians here? Yes, very good. Yes. And then any of you have been to Christian schools? Secondary school, primary schools, kindergarten, Christian schools before. Yeah, so many of you, yes. Yeah, that's why it's very influential. And actually Hong Kong is a very special place. Hong Kong is a big melting pot of the West and the East. 即係香港係一個中西合璧嘅地方啊。I taught in another class talking about actually Hong Kong since the beginning of the colonization. It has been more around in the 17th century. The missionary came to Hong Kong, and then that's why this university is Baptist University, right? 浸會大學, and we have the Baptist Hospital beside it, right? So, and there are actually many schools, many hospitals, many of the organization, like the organization we're going to visit 2 weeks later, is actually also a Christian organization. So many charity work, so many organization, hospitals, education systems is actually under the influence of Christianity, and actually in our heart, for example, democracy, for example, the political system, it's a lot, the government systems, a lot has been influenced by Christianity and humanistic thinking, respect for human. It's a lot, psychology, a lot of things is actually from the Western, civilization. And then, so why we Hong Kong students in Hong Kong, we are Chinese, we are Asian. Some of us are Asian or Chinese, or you're from all over the world. But you couldn't deny it is a Christian concept has been very great influence into our system. That's why. But then I realized I've been doing some research, and I realized that in Hong Kong, it's very difficult. Nowadays, I was telling you guys, there's so many people in Hong Kong facing mental health problem. Maybe, the elderly people you will face, we already scanned and asked them not to give us the elderly people who have very serious mental health problem. But what I'm saying is Hong Kong is one of the places have a lot of mental health issues, have a lot of problems. Why? Because like last week, we talked about the Chinese philosophy, right? We are Chinese, a lot of us are Asian. But then at the same time, we are bombarded with, we are mixed with westernized education, westernized, like last week, some students share with me, very hard to get along with your parents, very hard to get along with your traditional values. So actually, Hong Kong is a big melting pot of different values, Western values, Eastern values. So it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for us. We are very much demand in this world to be good in the eyes of the Western world and also the Eastern world. So it probably is the same for the elderly people also. They also face a lot of pressure also. So I like you guys to, get to know a bit about the Western philosophy also. And we rethink a little bit and know about the concept about life and death. Like last week, we talked about the Chinese Eastern philosophy. So this week, we talk about the Western philosophy. I hope it can, brainstorm you guys and let you rethink, you know. I know this class has not been easy. It's a lot of deep topic. It's not easy. It's a lot of work in your brain you need to do. Actually, I want to share with you while I'm preparing this PowerPoint, it's very hard for me also. It's not easy. It's very heavy stuff. So that's why I hope you guys, of course, you enjoy it. But I hope it's not every day that you can get to know a lot of deep stuff, you know, philosophical stuff. Maybe you do science, maybe you do marketing or management, or you do music. But it's nice, you know, to be able to do a lot of thinking, you know. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so like in the first class, we talk about whether you believe we have body and soul. So I'd like you guys to ask you guys one question. Do you believe there's a God or gods or God? You know, do you believe there's a God? Anybody who believes there's God? Yes. Anybody who do not believe there's God? Yes, some of you believe there's no God, right? So it's a very big question, actually, one of the biggest questions in life. What's the meaning of life? You know, why are we here? Why is that a God? You know, every day I work hard, I go to school, I hand in my homework. What's the meaning? So actually, God plays a very important part of making us think about the meaning of life. Like last week we talked about the Chinese philosophy. Maybe some of the Chinese philosophy do not really believe there's God, but they believe there's a system, the cosmos, Tao, right? They believe there was a system. We have to do good to be in the system. But for Western beliefs, for biblical teaching, for Christian people, we do believe there is a God. And this God is very special. Okay, we can step by step. Maybe I'm not trying to convert you or make you believe, but I want you to guys, we all try to broaden our horizons, try to broaden our perspectives, because to rethink, okay, some people are atheists. That means they don't believe in God. Some elderly or some of you, they do not believe there's God. Some people believe there are many gods. And some people believe, like last time we talked about in the Chinese, Eastern philosophy, there's so many different systems that we believe in. But then, okay, today we share about this. Okay, so for Western philosophy, as for Christianity, we believe in there's a God. And but what is God then? You know, what is God to you? So to Christianity, God is a very special person. Okay, somebody have personality. It's not only like a system. It's not only like a, you know, like a energy. The Christian God is knowable. You can actually, there is life, and he's can be spiritually connect with us. You know, it's very interesting. And there's some many perspectives, there's many qualities you can see. And I show you this map, this diagram. Some people have sort out, you know, categorize many different attributes. 即係神有好多唔同嘅 characters. There's many characters and attributes for God. And there's in the past, many different philosophers or theologians try to categorize his quality, his characteristics in different ways. Okay, so I have chosen one of this way is worked by Strong. This guy, his name was Strong, and then so he tried to categorize, saying that okay, God is spiritual. Okay, one of the point is he's spiritual. He has life. You know, like us, we are spiritual beings. Human is we are spiritual being. Okay, 身心靈 We have body, we have heart, we have psychologically we can think, but we also can be connecting with things spiritually. What is spirituality? 靈性上面嘅聯繫啊. You know, this is very unique, you know, but well, think about that. Have you ever seen an animal worshiping God? 有冇見過狗仔拜神啊? Have you seen an animal worship? No. A chicken worship? A monkey worship? No. But some people worship the chicken. Maybe they worship the cow, or maybe they worship the animal. But the other way around, animals do not worship. But human being, no matter you are what religion, where you come from, so many different religions in the world, right? People always try to think about what they think about is, what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? They have this urge to want to get to know God, or at least get to know your origin, where you come from, why my parents, my grandparents' parents, where they come from. So human being has this gift of being spiritual, like you want to be connected. Like, for example, if you take a minute just to look at the green grass outside, have you spent time to look at the green for the past week? Sometimes even if we just look at the nature, we can feel this connection with the universe, right? We can feel this spiritual feeling that you feel satisfied whenever you see the nature. 有冇人有呢啲感覺㗎? Anybody? Yeah, you do, right? Anybody have these feelings before? This very mysterious, mystic, 好神秘嘅感覺嚇. That whenever, or when you're talking with a friend, then you feel this connection with this friend. Some people you don't want to talk to them. Some people say click, doesn't click. But some people you feel, wow, 一見如故. Some people, after you talk one time, you feel you can really connect with them. Click, It's not only bodily or physical attraction, or maybe psychologically you guys are similar personality, whatever. But some people you can just feel that this spiritual connection with them, that we are so much in common, 一見如故咁樣, It's very funny, very well. For me, I think I can be connected with my little dog spiritually also. For me, I love animal. I really could feel the pain, and I can feel how they are feeling. I mean, as a human being, I think I have this ability, to feel the spiritual feeling, I don't know, anybody have this kind of spiritual experience before? 有冇人有呢啲靈性上嘅經驗啊？有冇㗎？ I don't worry, I won't ask you to come and share. Don't worry. Just say, if you have ever, maybe when you see a beautiful flower, a rose, you can just wonder, wow, who made this rose? Why it's such beautiful thing on earth, right? Yes, you do feel that. You know what I'm talking about. So this God, this Christian God, he has life. He has spirituality. And he has personality. He has a position in, he has his feelings, and he has his preferences, and he is like a person, So the next slide, I will explain more. Then why are we like this? Why are we as a person like this? Because we are the image of God. God created us. So I will tell more later. And then another thing is, God is fair, is infinite. He is very big, 無限嘅. He like we are limited. Our life is limited, right? We will die one day. And I'm standing here in Kowloon Tong, and I cannot be Sam Shui Po at the same time, right? But God is not. He is infinite. There are this quality that we look for this perfection. And anybody here a perfectionist? 有冇人覺得自己係完美主義者㗎? Anybody? Any of you? Yeah, you feel you're a perfectionist. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist also. I hope everything to be good. I hope everything to be right. I hope everything to look proper, to be good, Well, why as a human being we have such urge? Because we have something to look up to. Because there's a perfect God that we could look up to. This God he exists by himself. He doesn't depend on other people. All this goodness, is perfection, this truthness, as a young person, I think you guys yearn for that. You really hope for love, right? You hope for the truth. You hope for goodness. You hope for holiness. Do you have this feeling? Like, for example, I would love my parents to be good parents. I really love that. I want my children to be good children. I want my students to be good students. But of course, nobody's perfect. None of us are perfect, But we do have this image in our head. We want to do good. Like now, okay, actually, you don't have to come to class. You only have to pass, right? You don't have to, work so hard. Why are you sitting here? Why are you listening to this crazy woman talking about all this rubbish? Apart from just want to get good grades, you want to learn. You want to do good. You want to, feel this. You want to find out the truth. Yeah, this is how we mirror ourselves to God. So I'm telling you that God is the truth. He has the ultimate truth, So nowadays we are in the world of the internet. Everybody say that they are telling the truth, but there are so many different versions of truth, versions of realities, versions of truth, And in the news, there's so many different perspectives, so many different truths out there. And there are so many false news, false teaching, so many. But as young people, as us human, we want to know the truth. We want to know what is the ultimate reality. We want to know the righteousness, what is right, what is good. Okay, so God is actually giving us this. He is the ultimate. That's why we have this yearning in our heart to want this one. And then another thing is, we are limited in time and space. We are human beings are living in a limited time and space, right? We only, if we are strong enough, we can maybe live until we are 90 years old, 100 years old, but we cannot live forever. We are mortals, right? I mean, but God is the other way around. He is not limited. He's eternal. He's great. He was before the time, before the world was created. He was already there. He has no beginning and no end. But our human brain cannot comprehend that. We can't comprehend that. We are in limited time. I don't know whether nowadays we always watch the Avengers, right? These kind of movies. They always play around with time and talking about the multiple universe and things like that. We are limited in our own universe only. We are limited in our own time. But then, like yesterday you were sitting there, and today, just now lunchtime, you were at the coffee shop or you were at the lunch, but now you're sitting here. Do you feel sometimes, wow, how come I'm here? You are sitting in your own timeline, right? But God is everywhere. He is in every timeline. He's in every time. I mean, when in the morning you wake up, he was there. Whenever now he's here. And later on, when you die, you don't know how will you die, right? But he is there already. He knows how you would die. So he is without these limits. 我哋就俾啲時間空間框住啊。We only, our timeline is like linear. We year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, we do university, right? But I used to have a teacher tells me, like, okay, we are like sitting in front of a sushi bar. Yeah, you have eat sushi, right? You have eaten sushi, right? We are in a timeline. Okay, we only can eat what's in front of us. This sushi come, right? Of course, you can eat the sushi before and after, but you cannot eat the sushi in the kitchen. You can't, right? It comes to the kitchen, and we can the line of the sushi comes just like that, and you can just one bite at a time, right? But God, his perspective is different. He could eat, or he could take the whole sushi bar, the whole thing, because he's seeing the view is different from us. He see the whole time. Okay, it's different. So it's very, very deep thinking, but it's very interesting, I think. And and God creates. He can create from nothing to something. Okay. Imagine when you are similar in your dream, when you're dreaming. Okay, when you think about a hamburger now, okay, when you think about a hamburger, in your brain there's a hamburger, but you cannot touch the hamburger. Okay, but for God, 佢說有就有㗎啦. When he says something, his word is powerful. And he can tell you something, he can say something, 說有就有㗎啦. But we are bound with materials and, whether it's material or no material, we are bound by that. But God is not. God 說有就有. God, he can create anything. He is omnipresence, 無所不在, omnipotence, 全能 and 全知. He knows everything. Okay, and morally, he's good. He's justice. He has mercy, and he's faithful. So, okay, sounds like a perfect boyfriend, right? Right. You want your boyfriend to be, truthful, good, righteous and kind, sounds like a perfect boyfriend, a perfect man, perfect woman, right? A girlfriend, right? But can we find somebody perfect in this world? No, we can't. We are limited. So this is nice. Okay. This is the Western world of thinking. So, but then, okay, next one. Then how do we know that God? Of course, it's good to have God. It's good. This perfect being, out there is good. I would love to. That's God to help me. I would love it. But how do we know? Okay, I just share a few arguments. Okay, a few arguments by some of the philosophers. I try to make it simple. Okay, and because we have a lot to go through today. Okay, the first argument is about motion argument or effect and cause argument. Okay, you see this diagram, right? And when I was young, it was very popular, but maybe no more. This diagram at the right and the right there. Say when you move this one ball, when you move the one ball and it goes like that, right? So when one person moves one ball and the bounce back and then it moves, right? Okay, so what is this point is talking about is, okay, when you talk about, okay, if, for example, somebody give birth to me, I have a parent, I have a mother, I have a father. So somebody give birth to my father, and somebody gave birth to my father, father's father's fathers. So it's like everything in the universe is cause and effect of one thing after the other, right? Okay, so when we were talking about Buddhism, we also talk about cause and effect. So, but then there must be somebody in the very, 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 very beginning to push that button to make my ancestor born, right? So like who made the first mother and father, Adam and Eve? Okay, so somebody, it's like chicken and egg, right? Somebody must created the first chicken to make the egg, right? The egg becomes the chicken and the chicken lay eggs, right? Okay, yeah. So must be somebody in the very beginning. Well, of course, somebody say, oh, it's evolved, evolution, Darwin, somebody say that. But then, okay, so who created the first cell? If you believe in microevolution or evolution to a certain extent, then who created the first energy that gives energy to the cell? There must be somebody in the beginning. So it must be God. Okay, so this is one of the arguments. Okay, anybody want to argue back this argument? Or any comments for this argument? Okay. And then the second is design, okay? Design argument, okay? It's also from Thomas Aquinas. Like, for example, if you see a clock, okay, for example, the other day I went hiking. I saw a bowl, a Chinese bowl in the mud. Somebody buried a Chinese bowl 嗰啲咩you know, like an old kind of way, or old kind of Chinese bowl in the ground. When I went hiking, I saw it. Well, it must be somebody put it there. You know, it wouldn't be the ground giving birth to the bowl, right? Like, for example, if you find a clock, find a watch lying in the ground, must have somebody dropped it. Must have somebody buried the watch in the ground, right? It cannot be the soil, out of nothing, the soil give birth to the clock. 係咪啊？嗰啲泥土可唔可以 from nothing can the soil give birth to a clock？ 可唔可以㗎？可唔可以嗰啲泥生隻錶出嚟㗎？ You know, anybody do physics here? Anybody do physics here? 有冇人讀 physics 㗎？ Newton's first law, second law? 有冇人讀 physics 啊？ Nobody study physics here? Or you have done secondary school physics? Like, right, yeah. Like, you know, it's always from high energy to low energy. It's everything from good to destruction. It's very hard for you to say, okay, but if you have a piece of mud sitting here, okay, if a piece of mud sitting here, it cannot be, after so many thousands of years later, this mud cannot become a clock or become a human being. It can't, right? It will be degenerated to even maybe to ashes or dirt or even more. You know, if you do chemistry, you know that. If you do physics, you know that. Everything is from high energy to low energy. Is that right? Everything is from good to chaotic. For example, even if you buy a new, very, very nice, luxurious house, if you do not manage it, if you do not maintain it, if you do not take care of the house, 30 years later, 40 years later, the house become a mess, right? There are so many houses like that in Kowloon Tong. You always wonder, wow, so nice, the house in Kowloon Tong. You can walk past, you know, the back of Kowloon Tong. Some abandoned houses in Kowloon Tong. So nice, the land, you know, so expensive, but nobody take care of the house. It become very yucky. Maybe you can walk around Kowloon Tong and you can find out it's very expensive land. Yeah. But then after a while, maybe they don't have people to take care of it. Maybe they don't have children, or the old person owned the house, die already, and then nobody take care of it. Okay, so it's like, okay, so must be somebody design the clock. For example, when you see a very nice washing machine, when you see a nice cell phone, when you see a very nice car, must be some designers behind. Like, for example, if anybody into fashion, anybody do art here? Fashion designers, art? Like, no, right? But if you wear something, must be, this design is nice. The design, the product, it reflects the characteristic, the personality of the designer. Isn't it? Anybody like designer brand? 有邊人鍾意名牌㗎? Maybe it's not so fashionable now. In the old days, people like Gucci, Prada, right? LV, right? Then it reflects, oh, I wear Dior, whatever. I never do. I don't have enough money for that. But then people choose the brand to reflect their own characteristics. So everything has a designer. A nice watch, a clock has a designer. So like when you see something, even one single cell, you know, even one single cell in our body is more complicated than any factories in the world. Do you know that? You have the cell in your body, so many cells in your body, in one leaf, in one plant, so many cells. Even one cell is more, so million times more complicated than any system, any factories in the whole world. Who made that cell? Must be somebody. That's God. You know, this cannot have anything out of nothing, right? It must be God. Okay, the third argument is moral argument. Okay. Well, we try, like I said just now, we all try to be good. We try to be a good person. We come to class on time. And anybody experience in stealing things in the shops? 有冇試過高買啊? Anybody experience stealing things in the shop? In Watson's? No. Yes, you have, right? Yeah, I have also. I used to be very naughty. I used to be poor when I was a student. I used to grab things, I want to have it. I remember when I was young, in the shopping mall, I want this, they have this toy fair, 即係擺檔啊, they show the toys, to let the children to play. And I love Barbie at that time. These Barbie clothes, these Barbie dolls, putting and let the children play. And I have one Barbie in the house, and I saw these lovely clothes that I don't have. So I just grab it and put in my pocket and run home. Right? You experience something like that. Some of you experience something like that. You don't have the money for that. You grab it and put in your pocket. But then I felt so bad afterwards. I felt, I felt so uneasy for half a year, that I was so afraid that somebody will catch me and they have CCTV or whatever. I was so scared. I was depressed for half a year. I'm telling you the truth. And then the next day, I go back and put back the clothes in the shopping mall, into the fair, Yeah, because we have conscience, we have moral. But actually, most of us, actually to be good, to follow moral standard is so much harder. It's so easy to cheat, right? So easy to cheat. You just copy stuff. Of course, there are so many systems in the world to prevent you to cheat. But actually, if you're smart enough, it's easy to cheat, right? Have you watched the movie Catch Me If You Can, or this Inventing Anna? Have you watched Inventing Anna from Netflix? I watched it. I really enjoyed it. This very smart girl, she cheated for all these rich people to give her the money. Inventing Anna. I recommend you to watch it. But then, everybody debate, whether this girl she's doing right or wrong. It's so easy to cheat. You don't have to. Why do you have to sit here for university? There's no need. You can just cheat away all your way up. You can just forge your university certificate. I know that you can buy a university certificate online. Have you ever seen it? 有冇人見過有得買網上嘅university certificate? You never know. Yes. Why you need to study? But we have a morality in our heart. We have to do good. We want to do good. It's so much easy to a few $1,000. Maybe you can buy, right? You know that, right? Online. But people might find out. But we already get the benefit already. So it's so much easier actually to do bad things, to just, But then people always prefer to choose to do good, actually. Actually, we are good inside our heart, mostly. Confucianism also argue 人之初性本惡定性本善啊, whether our heart is originally good or bad. So this argument is saying that a lot of us actually, we have goodness in our heart. It could be more difficult to be good, but we still want to be good. Why? Because we have God behind us. And we know that at the end of the days, we will be rewarded, or we might be punished, for being good or being bad, Okay? And then the last argument, it was about, God is already implanted us, him himself in our heart. In the Bible, it says that 將永生咧，神將永生放咗喺我哋嘅心裏邊. God put eternal life in our heart. So actually, we are implanted God already in our mind, in our heart. Like you can see God's quality in yourself. So that's why we have this curiosity, and we want to know our origin, 尋根, We want to know God. That's why God is in our heart, So these few arguments, anybody understand or not understand, or you still want to argue, or of course you can still argue, or you can still have many questions in your heart. Whether, of course, it's every argument you can argue back, right? Again. And I would like to share with you a video. It's about, image of God. Yeah. Okay.
So if you lived in ancient Bible times, odds are you lived under the authority of a king.
And many of these kings claimed that they were gods, and they would even call themselves the image of God.
Meaning they had authority to tell people what to do, order things to be made.
Yeah, they got to define good and evil. And these kings would often make statues of themselves, which in Hebrew were called tselem, often translated as idol or image.
But for Israel, they didn't view their kings as the God. In fact, they were never supposed to even make images of God.
It's exactly right. And that was really unique for that time and culture. This is rooted, first of all, in Israel's belief that you can't reduce the creator God down to any one thing in mind. But there's another reason. People aren't to make images of God because God has already made images of himself.
When did he do that?
Let's go to page 1 of the Bible. And the first person we meet there is God. He's the one with authority over all creation, speaks and creation obeys. And he defines what is good and not good. In other words, he alone is king. But then surprisingly, as the pinnacle of all of God's creative work, he makes humans. And he calls all of them the image of God.
So he gives all humans the authority to do.
Exactly. That's what he goes on to say. He tells the humans to subdue the earth and to rule it. And so this task that once belonged only to elite kings is here in the Bible, the task of every human. This was a revolutionary statement in this day because all humans are being called to rule and to participate in the human project.
So what does this mean? I mean, how are we all supposed to rule?
So the picture we get in Genesis is gardening.
Gardening?
Yes, gardening. So they rule the earth by cultivating it, by harnessing all of the earth's raw potential and then making something more and new out of it.
So growing food for each other.
Yes, but that also includes growing families then, which become neighborhoods. And then they create communities where people are going to work and take care of each other and build businesses and cities and more expanded places.
So ruling is really the day-to-day acts of our work and creativity.
Yes, we take the world somewhere. This is humanity's divine and sacred task.
Yeah, this all sounds really nice. And humans have designed some pretty great things. But just as often we create things that cause a lot of suffering and a lot of injustice. So maybe we shouldn't actually be ruling.
Yeah, so the Bible addresses this. In Genesis, what happens is that God gives humans a choice about how they're going to rule. So are they going to use their authority for the benefit of others, which is God's definition of good, or are they going to turn away and define good and evil for themselves and use their authority for self-advantage?
And in the story, they choose to define good and evil on their own terms.
And so this is the Bible's depiction of the human condition. So sometimes we pull off amazing, good stuff, but just as often, despite our best intentions, we act selfishly and we create evil.
And so we're stuck as mediocre rulers making a mess of things.
But that's not the end of the story. So the Bible goes on and it makes this claim that all of this was resolved when God bound himself to humanity through Jesus. And he showed us what it looks like to truly rule and live.
So what does it look like?
Well, Jesus ruled by serving and by seeking the best for others, by putting himself underneath them and loving not just his friends, but also his enemies.
And that's not a typical way to rule.
And not only that, Jesus confronted the consequences of all the evil and the death we have created by our messed up ways of ruling. And he takes it. I mean, he lets it kill him. So when the New Testament writers look back to Jesus' resurrection, they see a whole new future opening up for all of humanity.
Jesus is a new way to be human.
Yeah, that's why they call Jesus the image of God, or the new human. And not only that, they also believe that Jesus' divine life and power is now available to heal and to transform us to become our life and power.
And this sounds really nice, but what does it really look like?
So practically, the Apostle Paul said it looks like people being filled by Jesus' own presence and spirit, filled with love and joy, and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and integrity and gentleness and self-control. He said, this is the new humanity that God wants to create in us, so that we become people in whom God's image is being restored, people who will move the human project forward. And that's actually how the story of the Bible ends. It's a renewed world where God is on his throne and his servants are all around him, but they're the ones ruling over this new world, taking it into new, uncharted territory with Jesus as their healer and their God.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so it's very exciting to know that we are all created in the image of God and we all together can rule together. We all can, let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. Yep. Yeah, so you guys heard of this idea that, just now in the beginning of the class, I also, tried to say that we are created in the image of God. That's why, the quality of God you can see in the first page of the slide. We all also have partially those quality and we yearn for those quality, So I hope you also, could understand this Christianity thinking that you can see in this slide also. It says in the Bible that man, it says in the video that we are given responsibility to manage the world, to take care of the garden and to have our job and to take care of our family. So in that sense, actually also we have this rationality that we are rational being like God. We have this knowledge and we have wisdom and we can create and we can also manage our work like yourself. Now you are in university and you are learning how to be an adult. You're learning, you're looking for what job you're going to have. Like in this video showing, though maybe you will become a teacher, or maybe you become a cook, or you will become a mother, or you become a father, then, this is the job that God wants us to do, is to manage the world, to manage the animal, everything in it. And then, like I said just now, also we have this spiritual dimension also that we could communicate with each other. We could communicate with God, actually. And then in the sense, just now I also explained also we have this moral dimension as a human, like God knows what is good, what is bad, and we do also, and Adam and Eve, in the beginning, he also chose. So we are given the right, the free will to choose whether we can choose to do good or not good. Like I said just now, I could choose to steal the Barbie clothes, but I could choose to put it back, right? So we all of you also is the same. You are the moral agent. You can choose to do good and do bad. You have the choice. You have the free will. This is a very important gift that God gives us. We have the freedom. We can choose. You can choose not to come in the class. You can choose to walk out the door now. You can choose to sleep, and shut down your ears and not listen, right? You can choose. You can choose, right? I won't kill you. I can't kill you for that, right? So we have, of course, we are limited. We have limited or conditioned. Of course, our freedom is not forever. When we live in this world, our freedom is limited. But at least we can choose what to think. We can choose, whether we do this homework or we can delay our homework, you can choose. So this is a very great gift that God gives us, that we can choose to think, and also we can have it each other. We can socialize with each other. We can socialize with God, and we have our fellow student. So as a human, we have this different dimension. We are rational, we are spiritual, we have moral dimension, we are social being. So actually we are a person. We are a person like God, have God's image. Okay, so this is the westernized belief, the Christianity belief. That's why we need to respect each other. Like I said in the video, it says, we're going to serve the elderly. We hope to build the society. We respect each other. We love each other. This is what we're trying to do. Okay, so the next one. So matter of life and death. What is life? Life is created by God and it's all have a purpose. God is not somebody to do things without a purpose. God do things for meaning. So that's why we are looking for meaning here in this class. Also, we will talk to the elderly to hope to look for the meaning of their lives also, to help them, to listen to them, to the story, to also, let them get to know their own meaning. Sometimes we do not know the meaning of our lives. Like I ask my children, I have 3 boys. I always ask them, what you want to do when you grow up? I don't know. We don't know what to do. Maybe you still do not know what to do for your future. You still do not know. You're still trying to find the meaning of your life, right? But then, in God's creation, like just now, in the Bible, it says God made everything. He made the sky, he made the earth, he made the animals, he made the day and night, But then at the end, he made human. On the 6th day, he made human. So it was the peak of God's creation. Human being was, when he made dogs or sheep or animal, he did not say that it was the image of God. Only when he made human that he said it was the image of God. So we have this spirit, we have this life that is, copy of God. And he said it was good. He said that the creation of his was good. So actually we were supposed to be good. We are good, And he was proud of, we were at the highest of his creation. And life was very important, that he blew his breath into Adam's and Eve, spirit, and he became a lively person instead of just being a mud. He made human being out of mud. And then we have this breath. We have this, like I said, we have this spirituality of God. 我哋有神嘅靈性吓。And then, that's why this life is made by God, and we need to cherish life. We need to preserve life. We need to respect life. So this is what I hope you guys to learn, like, whenever we talk to, the elderly later on, they are old already, they probably are sick, but they are still human being. And what we are learning is, in this course, is to respect each other, to respect life, to get to know life, the meaning of life, And also, God, after he made human being, he started to make covenants, to make agreement, to have relationship with us. We can have relationship with God. And in the old days, the Old Testament, the Bible, I'm not going to go into details of that, but actually throughout the Bible, it's all about God making promises and having agreements. In the Old Testament and in the New Testament, he keep having, covenant, like an agreement, with human being. But then it's too bad that later I will talk about it, that people choose not to listen to God and break these promises. But then, originally life was good. Originally life was good, and life was a gift of God. God gave us life, So, but then in the beginning of the Old Testament, God give us some rules, like the 10 commandments, that like this law to follow, that we hope to define ourselves as good people. Like I said, we should not steal, we should not, kill each other, we should love each other, should respect your parents and things like that. And, in the old days, in the Old Testament, is because, like, for example, when we were young, like human history was for this Christianity, human history is like, also we are growing up. We do not just grow up individually, like the whole universe, like the whole human race also grew up, also was growing up. 即係成個人類嘅歷史都喺度進展啊。It's like developing and growing up. Like in the old days, like the civilization was not that, civilized. People were killing each other. People were having wars, and people did not know how to respect lives. And people, like, there are so many, maybe people steal it from each other. So God also made these promises and also want to make rules and regulations for people to dedicate themselves to God, to live a good life. And life in relationship with God should be good. So we are supposed to, this theologian Thomas Aquinas, he said that our human being should be having relationship with God, and we should get to know God. Like I said just now, we were made in the image of God, right? And God is perfect, is good, right? So if you become a good friend with him and learn from him, then you can be good, you can be perfect, you can be doing the good things. But then if you be away from him, then human is just like, it's like we are a creation. Like, for example, that if somebody made a rice cooker, but if the rice cooker is not connected with electricity, then the rice cooker become useless, right? So God is like the energy behind this rice cooker. God is like electricity. So, okay, if there's a light here, right? There's a projector sitting here, right? If the projector is not connected with electricity, there's no use, right? So there's so many creation we are created, but if we are not connected with our source of life, the energy, then we can be nobody, we can be nothing. If you're not doing the good things, you can choose to do a lot of bad things. You can choose not to come to university. You can choose not to do homework. You can choose not to listen, not to do the right things. Then you can be, good and evil. What is evil is not actually evil or darkness. Okay, another example. So light and darkness. Okay, so it's in the Bible always say that goodness is like the light. Darkness is not something have its own essence. 即係黑暗咧係冇一個darkness. There's no essence in darkness, and darkness is without light. Okay, so it's like it's like energy also. Sometimes heat is the presence of heat energy. We have energy. Coldness is no energy. Okay, because it's so cold because there's no heat energy. Okay, yeah, so it's irrelevant. So evil is not something have an entity. Evil is not something 唔係有佢自己嘅本質嘅。There's no essence in evil. There's no essence in darkness, but it's just absence of light and absence of goodness and absence of energy. So whenever we are not connecting ourselves with God, so for Christianity, all the theologians, all the prophets, all the Bible storytellers, they like us to be reconnecting ourselves with God so that we can have all this goodness, holiness, perfect, all these things. But it's too bad so many of us choose to be away from God. We choose not to listen. We choose not to choose what God wants us to do. I don't know whether you have experienced this little voice in your head. Do you have this little voice in your head? Like your conscience? Do you have this little voice in your head? To ask you to do good things, you do, right? To do what is you? Oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to come to class. Can I sleep? Can I just join the Zoom? But I don't have a sick leave paper, but I don't care, Every day you want to lie in, you want to do less, you don't want to do it, but the little voice in your head say, do it lah, continue, right? Press on, try harder, add oil, 加油, right? This little voice is the spirit of God. But of course, there are still bad voices also, right? There are bad voices ask you, like, no need to do lah, be lazy lah, like that. you know. So this ideal of goodness, righteousness, goodness is God's calling. And in the Old Testament, there's all this good work, good deeds in the heart, as if they were babies in the Old Testament, in the Bible, as if they were babies. They were young children. They need to listen. Okay, so I show you the 10 commandments for Jewish, for Catholic, and for Protestants also. There are commandments in the Bible ask you to do what is good. Like, for example, you shall not steal. Number 9, you shall not be false witness. You shouldn't say bad things about your neighbor falsely. You should not be greedy to something is not belong to you. But if you do that, you're greedy. If you steal, you get in a lot of trouble. Yeah. So these are the commandments, for Muslim, for Jewish, for Catholic, for Protestant. It's all the same Old Testament origin. Okay, it's all this Old Testament origin. Okay, I try to move on. I show you another video. Okay. Okay, so let's watch another video to kick off.
There's a lot to say about how messed up humans are, and that's true. It's also true that the Bible's vocabulary about this topic sounds odd to modern people, using words like sin, iniquity, or transgression. And so the Bible's perspective on the human condition is often ignored or treated as ancient and backwards. This is really unfortunate, because through these words, the biblical authors are offering us a deeply profound diagnosis of human nature. Iniquity describes behavior that's crooked, while transgression refers to breaking trust. And sin, this is actually the most common of these bad words in the Bible, so let's focus on it for a few minutes. Sin translates the Hebrew word chata and the Greek word hamartia. The most basic meaning of sin isn't religious at all. Chata simply means to fail or miss the goal. Like when the Israelite tribe of Benjamin trained a small army of slingshot experts, they could sling a stone at a hare and not chata, that is, fail or miss. Or there's a biblical proverb that warns against making hasty decisions because you're likely to chata your way, miss your destination. So in the Bible, sin is a failure to fulfill a goal. But what's the goal? Well, on page 1 of the Bible, we learn that every human is an image of God, a sacred being who represents the Creator and is worthy of respect. And so in this way of seeing the world, sin is a failure to love God and others by not treating them with the honor they deserve. You can see this idea in the famous code of conduct given to the Israelites, the 10 Commandments. Half of them identify ways you can fail at loving God, and the other half name ways you can fail at loving people. And the fact that both kinds of failure are combined shows that failing to honor God is deeply connected to failing to honor people. This is why in the Bible, sin against people is sin against God. Like when Joseph refuses to sleep with the wife of Potiphar, he says, "How could I sin against God?" In Joseph's mind, failing to honor a human made in God's image is a failure to love God. And so, sin is a failure to be truly human. But there's more. A fascinating thing about sin in the Bible is that most of the time that people are failing, they either don't know it, or even worse, they think they're succeeding. Like when Pharaoh wants to build Egypt's economy and protect national security, in his mind, this justifies enslaving the Israelites. He thinks it's good, and he's totally unaware that it's an epic fail. Or when King Saul is chasing David around the wilderness trying to kill him, he thought he was bringing a criminal to justice until he realizes he's the corrupt one. And he says, "I have sinned. I am the failure." So sin is about more than just doing bad things. It describes how we easily deceive ourselves and spin illusions to redefine our bad decisions as good ones. So why are humans such bad judges between moral failure and success? Well, the first appearance of the word sin in the Bible offers an insight. There are these two brothers, Cain and Abel. Their parents had just given in to this beastly temptation to redefine good and evil by their own wisdom, and now Cain is faced with a similar choice. He's jealous and angry that God has favored his brother, and so God warns him, "If you don't choose what is good, Chata is crouching at the door. It wants you, but you can rule over it. So in these stories, sin, or moral failure, is depicted as this wild, hungry animal that wants to consume humans. And we know how that story ends. The Bible is trying to tell us that failed human behavior, our tendency towards self-deception, it runs deep. It's rooted in our desires and selfish urges that compel us to act for our own benefit at the expense of others. And it leads to this chain reaction of relational breakdown. This is why in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul describes hamartia as a power or a force that rules humans. In his words, we are slaves to sin. He even says sin lives in us, so that the things I don't want to do, that's what I do. So with the word sin, the biblical authors are offering a robust description of the human condition. It's a failure to be humans who fully love God and others. It's our inability to judge whether we're succeeding or failing, and it's that deep selfish impulse that drives much of our behavior. This is not a pretty picture of ourselves, but if we're honest, it's realistic. This is why in the Bible, the story of Jesus is such good news. He's depicted as the Creator become a truly human one who did not fail to love God and others. That is, he did not sin. And yet, he took responsibility for humanity's history of failure. He lived for others, and he died for their sins. And he was raised from the dead to offer them the gift of his life that covers for their failures. Or in the words of the apostles, he committed no sin, yet he carried our sins in his body on the cross, so that we might die to our sins and live to do what is right. And that's the story behind the biblical word for sin.
Yeah. So thank you for your attention. So, okay, the Christianity is like, it's not about not only about doing good, not only about, 我都幾好人啦，好多人都話，我唔使信教或者我唔使認識呢啲宗教啦，I don't need to understand all this. I'm a good person, But being a Christian is not only being a good person. Well, of course, being a good person is a byproduct. It's a byproduct. For Christians, if you understand God, if you have a relationship with God, then you will transform and to become a good person. But the most important is, like from this video, you can learn is to get to know God and get to know yourself and get to know your neighbors. You love God and love yourself and love your neighbor. This is important. So this is what it says in the video. So that means committing sin is not the same as committing crime. It's not means that 係即係做壞事啊，殺人放火咁。當然is bad. But what it says is actually you have to get to know God and not miss being loving to God and other people on earth. So I think this project is good that we are learning to not only care about ourselves, but to care about other people also. Okay. So that means sin is actually being self-centered. That means it's like you try to listen to yourself only and not listen to God and not listen to other people. So this is sin. Yeah. So it's a choice, of being away from God, choice of not accepting your creator, a choice of going your own way, 即係偏行己路吓。There's like for example, if you are made as a rice cooker， 即係如果你係一個電飯煲吓，如果人即係個設計師做你係一個電飯煲啊，then you will need electricity to make the 電飯煲 work, right? To make the rice cooker work. So, but if sinning means you get yourself away from God, that means you don't get the electricity. You don't get the source of life, the energy for life. Then if you become 就算你係一個好靚嘅電飯煲吓 very nice Japanese international branded 電飯煲吓 but if you don't have electricity, if you don't have being connected with your designer, then you don't know how to use the rice cooker with the proper way, then there's no use. So this is what sin means, that we are being away from God, Okay, so you can read this PPT. I don't go through it line by line, but you can read through it by yourself, okay? Yes. And then, okay, about death. 生死教育係咪? We're talking about that. So for Christian, what does it mean by death? Actually, 係死係咩嚟嘅咧? 咩係死咧吓? How many of you are fear of death? 有邊個驚死㗎? 會啊，嗬，驚死，舉得幾快啊，有啲要 put up your hand very quickly。有冇人唔驚死㗎？有啲都唔驚死嘅。Yeah, we will talk about that in the lesson after. We'll talk about fear of death. Actually, what do we fear about? Do we fear about the process of dying, or you fear that you don't know where to go, or what you fear about? But actually, what I want to say is this is 呢個神學家he said that actually why usually people are scared of death? 通常啲人都驚死嘅，即係唔知自己會去邊 because you don't know what will happen, you don't know what's come next, you don't know where will you go, and you don't know how you're gonna die. Anybody here know when you're gonna die or how you're gonna die? 有冇人知道你幾時死啊？笑啊，唔知唔想知啊。Yeah, or how you gonna die? 有冇人知道點死啊？點死㗎？逐死啊，定係how to die? 病死啊，餓死啊，how do you die? You don't know, right? We don't know. Usually nobody know unless you choose to kill yourself. 可能死唔去嘅喎，係咪？ So we don't know. So 呢個神學家咧就話咧 actually people usually are fear of death. Usually 佢哋啲人都驚死嘅 because our life were not designed to be dead. Actually 即係我哋嘅人生係本身個設計，神個設計係唔想我哋死㗎。In Christianity, actually, well, in the Garden of Eden, we were supposed to live forever. If Adam and Eve did not eat the fruit of the knowledge, 即係如果佢冇食嗰個分辨善惡樹嘅果子佢淨係食生命樹嘅果子suppose 人係唔想死嘅，係唔會死嘅So that's why we are very scared, But then, why we died is actually the design of God is actually very thoughtful. 其實神嘅設計係好仁慈嘅。In the Garden of Eden, actually, when Adam and Eve choose to live their choice of their life, they ate the forbidden fruit. They ate the fruit of that they want to be their own God. They want to be away from God. They did not want to listen to God. So human being, the death comes into the life of human being and comes into the world. 之後即係罪嘅工價就係死嘛。即係 because there's a consequence also. First of all, there's a consequence. 即係做一嘢係有後果啦。同埋咧 actually God want to have us, well, because people choose to live away from God. Then God grant human a limited time in the life from the suffering. Actually, human beings are suffering actually when they are away from God. When people are away from God, people are suffering. Can you imagine? Well, in this world, actually, do you want to live forever? 其實喺呢一個人唔想啲人即刻擰頭。You want to study in BU for 10 years? No. You want to stay here forever? No. Well, actually, life can be a torture, really. Life without God, the world is not heaven. This world is under the power of evil forces because human beings choose choice. The choice is to be their own God, to be away from God, to have their own ways. So just now the video also say everybody sin, everybody are self-centered, everybody is selfish. So we are all live in the consequences. 即係我哋全部都喺 好多人唔同嘅人嘅做嘅事嘅後果嘅大鎖鏈嘅裏邊啊。Like for example, my mom chose to leave my father and go with the boyfriend, and then I live for the consequence that she made. So I suffer because she made a choice of leaving my father, and then I was the eldest daughter, so I had to take care of my sister, and a lot of suffering in my life. So actually, you can see in the news every day, you can see the consequences. 即係污染啊, the pollution, cancer, the wars, the disasters in the world, the climate, 嗰啲氣候暖化, and then the animal, really suffering. Actually, the world is chaotic now because so many people made wrong choices. Like, for example, if you see the ocean, like people dump all this rubbish into the ocean, and then so many sea turtle and all these animals suffer because of this plastic gone into the ocean, like that, right? So there's consequence of people's selfishness. I love go hiking. And when I go hiking, I see so much rubbish in the mountains. And then the animal, maybe they have no food to eat, they will eat the rubbish like that. And then in the sea also, there are so many of them throw the straw. 而家都走數係嘛，唔要飲桶啊係嘛。Nowadays, the awareness is getting higher and higher. We don't use plastic. And hopefully the government is starting to ban the plastic forks and knives. If you go to the outlet islands in Hong Kong, so much rubbish, so much rubbish in the seashore, and all these animals, these beautiful birds, and the animals suffering, from all these things. I saw there was this dolphin and have plastic bag in her stomach, because we people throw plastic back into the sea. So we are suffering from all these consequences of people's selfishness. 即係我哋每日都做緊嘅，其實。Maybe you would say, 我好好人㗎, I'm a good person, I never sin, 呢啲唔關我事. But if you're honest with yourself, you think about it. 而家好似好多人都唔係好想聽啊。I can see so many of you don't want to listen. I'm a very sensitive person because nobody want to face their own self. Nobody want to face your own sin, right? That sometimes think about some of the consequences, some of the things we have done that have made damage to other people. Like, for example, I confess myself first. For example, I used to have a boyfriend, okay, that he was divorced and he had a son. The son was 8 years old when I went out with this man. And I wasn't really sure whether that this guy was a good boyfriend, but I went out with him anyway. And then I started to build relationship with this boy. He was 8 years old, and we were getting very close. And I helped him. It was more than 15 years ago, more than 20 years ago, actually, when I was younger, before I got married. So, and then this boy was 8 years old, and then we started building relationship, and I helped him with his homework, and he didn't have a mother. His mother went it's the same, similar with my mother. The mother ran away to Taiwan, and so he has no mother. So I wasn't sure whether this boyfriend was good, but I went out with him for 2 years anyway. So after we built relationship together for 2 years, he was 10 years old, right? So I remember, but then I didn't have a good relationship with the dad, and we went rough. And I wanted to escape from this relationship, frankly. And I was younger, and I was stupid, and I was, wasn't thinking clearly. But of course, I have to protect myself because I know that the man was not a very good man. He was having other girlfriend or doing other things. So I wanted to break up with the boyfriend, okay? But then I didn't miss the man, but I missed the child, the boy that actually built relationship with me. But now, even now, he's big boy now. He already graduated from UST, I think. But I still feel bad sometimes because I still remember the day I left him. And I lied to him also that I said, because I wanted to comfort him. And I said, I bought you Christmas present and, like that, just to comfort him on the phone like that. But he kept calling me and say, where's my Christmas present? Like this. So I feel very bad. I still feel bad about it. There's so many bad things I've done. Maybe I didn't, take care of my dog enough. I didn't take care of my cat enough. I left my cat with my sister and to have a baby. And then the cat, eventually got sick and, all this stuff. When you get older, you will know. You feel bad. You feel regret. There's so many things that we have all done. We have the choices, the bad choices we made. There are consequences that some people will suffer for the consequence we make, for the decision we make. For example, this poor innocent child, because my relationship with his father wasn't going well, so I had to leave him. We had relationship together for 2 years. This 10-year-old boy must have broke his heart. I had broke his heart, but I had no choice because I could have done it better, but people are I couldn't even care about myself. How can I care for him? Like that. So I want you guys to think about it. We are not, we are not alone. We are one whole big family in the world that everything we do will affect each other. Some people say, 我唔影響人咪得咯. A lot of people say, I do this, I make this choice, I do this, I don't affect other people, I can do this, I can do that. But actually, this world is one big community. We all do things that have consequence affect other people. It's true. That's why nowadays, the war and everything in the world, I often feel heartbroken, feel sad, watching the news, because it's a lot of the decision that people make that actually have consequences for a lot of people, especially the more poor country, suffer the consequence of what we do. So I hope that we can increase our sensitivity throughout this course. We can increase our awareness that, about who we truly are, Yeah. So luckily, actually, we have the suffering time is limited because people choose to be away from God. We only have 70 years old, 80 years old on earth. So we die, right? And the suffering has an end. At least it's limited time. You can't imagine if you suffer eternally, right? Okay. So, and then another thing, let me see the time. I want to leave you guys more time, so I won't show you the videos. Maybe you can watch if you want. I want to leave more time for you guys discussions and more time for Ms. Hong's teaching later. So I want to say is, just now in the video also already mentioned that for Christianity, Jesus is actually God himself. Like I said, 聖父、聖子、聖靈 is one Trinity God, that he came down from heaven to earth to settle these consequences, to pay up the sin, to pay up the things we have done, because we had broken our relationship with God. But God himself he come to amend the relationship with us. So he came to 2023 years before. He was born in Bethlehem, and he came down and he suffered for us. He died on the cross like an animal, 即係好似一個祭物咁啊，一個生嘅祭物咁啊。Because it was a tradition that actually the sin, the wrongdoings need to be settled. 即係咧 because 因為神咧係好公平嘅嚇，神God is righteous, and if somebody do the wrong thing, they have to pay the price. 邊個做咗錯事係要償還，係有後果。But actually we cannot pay ourselves. So God, he came by himself to pay the price. He died on the cross to let us understand him, and he came to the world with us so that, you know, we can make up with God. 即係我哋可以同神和好啊 reconciliation with God, because Jesus offered this self-sacrificing love, 係去自我去犧牲。So that's why Christian, we learn how to sacrifice ourselves. Like the way whenever we serve the elderly, I really admire you guys. 好好你哋願意 you guys willing to take this course and spend probably extra time to serve the elderly. You know, I believe that you guys do not just serve the elderly for the sake of the marks, right? 唔係為咗分數去服侍啲老人家，係咪？我相信。So because you choose, you have this heart to choose this course. 其實你可以揀啲簡單嗰啲 course 㗎，係咪？ Actually, you can choose very other simple course and many other course you can choose. But you did make a decision. You choose this course quite complicated, right? And you need to go out and you need to meet the elderly. But you guys make a choice to serve the elderly, right? You also have the heart to want to do good, you know, for other people. That's very good. This is the way we can get to know ourselves and others and get to know God also. So this is good. Okay. Another thing is heaven. Okay. All these videos I might not going to show you again. But well, for Christianity, this is this place called heaven, right? Let me see the time. Okay, yeah. Actually, well, God promised us, you know, after we died, there's heaven, eternal life, you know. Any of you believe there's heaven? 有冇人信有天堂㗎? After you die, somewhere you go. Good. Yeah. Whatever religion or your other religion also, there's somewhere good you would go, right? Even the Buddhists, they believe that there's the nirvana, right? 極樂世界, right? And people, it's very natural that human being, they yearn for, they hope for a better future, a perfect future, because the world now is really bad, it's chaotic. We don't want that. We have this yearning naturally that we hope that we will see each other in heaven. This might not be so real for you, but you know, last week I told you that I went for a funeral, right? It was my friend's mother passed away, and the brother was not Christian or he did not have any religion. But it's very natural that when somebody died, if your parents or your grandparents, your relative die, you would hope to see them again, right? Usually in the Instagram or Facebook, you see some people, they have family, you know, passed away. You hope that you can see them again in heaven. There's this hope, 即係有個盼望啊。We wouldn't hope, like, for example, if your grandparents passed away, you would not want to that, well, maybe for some of you not believe there's a God, or maybe some of you not believe there's heaven. But if you can imagine, if you're honest with yourself, if your grandparents, your loved ones, 如果你愛嘅人係會死去啊, and you would really love to see them again, wouldn't you? 會唔會啊？你好想可以再見到佢，將來有一個更好，佢會去一個更美好嘅地方。The person will go to a better place, right? This is in different beliefs, different religion, not only for Christian, right? But then, you know, in the Bible, it says heaven is a real place. That God promised in the Bible that you can, you know, after if you have a relationship with God, you can, you know, go to heaven, and it's a perfect place, and you can still recognize your loved ones. It says in the Bible, you can still have your memory. 你會仲有你嘅記憶. You can still see. It's a promise. There's a promise that you can meet your own, you know, the family who also believe in God, and then, you know, you can go to a better place, you know, on earth. And it's a place of promise, of love and happiness and peace. There's no more tears. in heaven 不再有眼淚、疼痛、哀哭。This it says in the Bible. If you're interested, you can search for these Bible verses here. And then this is what Christians would believe. That's why the Christians have hope. 即係通常啲基督徒都係有盼望啊！即係我if you think about the funerals， 即係嗰啲中式嘅 ，there's Chinese funerals or Buddhist funeral, Taoist funerals， 即係嗰啲基督教嘅 funeral。Anybody have been to a funeral before？ 有冇人去過啲西式即係基督教嘅喪禮？有冇人去過？有啲去過嚇。Yeah, it's not so sad, right? There's a lot of hope that we can meet again. That's a hope， 即係有一個盼望，唔係去地獄嚇，唔係去破地獄。Yeah, you can go to heaven. Okay? Yes. And then I would explain a bit more with you some Christian belief also. So it's not the heaven is not just the end. Actually, Christians believe that Jesus Christ will come again. 即係基督徒咧係信耶穌會再來嘅。There's a second coming of Jesus, and in the Bible it already foretold， 即係Bible 都講咗噶啦，民要攻打民，國要攻打國啊，好多嘅先兆啊。There's many of the sign, saying that Jesus is coming back soon. There's a lot of war and plague， 瘟疫啦、地震啦。Yesterday 土耳其有地震啊，死咗好多人啦。So actually, you can see there's a sign that the world is breaking down. The world is getting more chaotic and more chaotic, and it's a sign that 天國近了啊。There's a sign that Jesus is coming back soon, because you can see 你見到好多呢啲先兆啊，全部都應驗啊。War, plague, 瘟疫disasters, 地震、海嘯all this. So it says that Jesus will come back again and, will rule for a certain period of time. I'm not going to go into detail, but I'll just let you know this concept, as a Christian concept. And then all mankind at the end will stand, will rise, will come back to life again. 即係會復活啊，人會復活。And then we'll have the final judgment that Jesus will judge. How are we? Okay? Yeah, talking about 復活 talking about resurrect body. Maybe I'll let you see this one. 呢條片都我幾想睇，我都好啊，俾你睇下。
Alex McFarland is a leading Christian apologist. If you're wondering, that doesn't mean he apologizes for the faith. It means he defends Christ's history and shows why you can trust it. To get there, he first explains what historians want.
They want eyewitness testimony. They want multiple testimony. They want early testimony. And the fourth is hostile testimony.
As for eyewitness and early, the Gospels Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are by men who either knew Jesus in the flesh or got their facts from eyewitnesses, like Mary, the mother of Jesus, and others. Paul's epistles are written by a man who encountered the resurrected Christ.
We have got the Gospels coming to us from less than 10 years after the cross.
Compare that to the 643 ancient copies of Homer's Iliad, whose authenticity scholars don't question.
But from the time of the writing to the copies we have, more than
講於復活
years,
耶穌復活 the resurrection of Jesus.
Caesar, which comes to us in several dozen copies. But again, from the earliest copies we have, the time of writing, nearly a millennia, 1,000 years.
Compare that to the main facts about Christ.
The core of Jesus' identity message credentials was in circulation regularly within 8 weeks after the cross.
As for hostile testimony, or at least not pro-Christian, many outside sources wrote of this Jesus.
A worker of wonders, did miracles, claimed to be God, crucified at Passover. The core facts of the gospel, death, deity, and resurrection, just based on ancient Jewish, Greek, and Roman sources that certainly were no friend to the burgeoning church. That's very compelling to historians because it represents objectivity, that those no friend of the movement also corroborate the core facts of what we know about Jesus.
Filmmaker Rick Larson finds proof of Christ and the miraculous world around him in a whole different sphere, scientific evidence.
There are two great events in Christianity. There's the incarnation and there's the execution and resurrection. Those are the two great events. And those two things, God chose to leave hard evidence that we can find today and show that they occurred.
In the Star of Bethlehem documentary, Larson found there really was a light in the heavens that guided the wise men to baby Jesus. It was even shown on coins made at the time. The Christquake shows how Larson's crew found in ground, once covered by the Dead Sea, the geologic ripples of the gigantic earthquake that split rocks at the very hour of Jesus' death. Gordon, the Gospel of Matthew mentions both the Star of Bethlehem and the earthquake at the cross, and Larson, as he was just saying there. There's scientific evidence for both of them. As for the written record, there's some 30,000 ancient fragments, portions, whole copies of the New Testament, far more than Homer's Iliad or biographies of Caesar. Gordon?
Well, I've got to ask, Paul, why the doubt? Why do you think so many more people accept Homer, accept Socrates, but then doubt that Jesus Christ really lived?
You know what? I think what's interesting about this is you can believe those guys, you can see proof of them in history and all that, but I think it doesn't really affect people. But if you believe that Jesus Christ existed, then you have to face, well, is he crazy or was he lying? He's saying he's the Son of God. So maybe you like all his teachings and everything, but there's that core question that he's saying he's the Son of God, and we've got his resurrection to deal with. And then so people have to then say, well, then if all of that is true, then that proves there's a God, and I have to face that fact, and I have to make a decision. And so therefore, I think that's the thing. People don't necessarily want to have to face that decision. They don't want to necessarily have to give their life to their Lord. So he's been challenged throughout all of these last 2,000 years. And I think as long as there's mankind, there'll always be those challenges.
Yeah, that's true. But he's the one who split BC into AD, so we need to keep that in mind. You've interviewed several famous apologists over the years. Why did they end up becoming such fierce defenders of the faith?
I think because they were such fierce enemies of the faith at the start. We've got guys like Josh McDowell, who was a legal scholar, across the Atlantic to find out. He was basically sent out to find out, to do a paper that would disprove God existed. And he ended up finding so much evidence for him that he became a believer. We got guys like cold case detective J. Warner Wallace, who used his skills as a detective thinking, I'm going to prove that these things didn't happen, like the resurrection. He became a fierce believer. We've got C.S. Lewis, a man, one of the most brilliant scholars in the world, who didn't want to believe, but found so much evidence that he believed. And even Lee Strobel, journalist, used all his skills as a journalist to investigate and became a fierce believer. So, and even in my own life, I was an atheist right during the Jesus People movement, spent hours and hours in my high school trying to talk young people out of their faith, until finally I had to face that question about, hold it here, what is my evidence that he doesn't exist? And I finally ended up searching, and until there was a moment when I was saying, God, you've got to show me, are you real or not? And had an encounter where God himself said, just ask me. And I said, are you real? And he said, I am. And I gave my heart to him because, again, I ran right into the guy. There was no doubt because there he was right in front of me.
Well, Paul, thanks for the insight and thanks for being with us. And for you at home this Easter, realize that you have to make a decision. Is Jesus real? Is he who he says he is? And the same question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so basically this video is talking about there's actually a lot of the evidence, shows that Jesus was resurrected, and even some non-Christian sources, some historian, like for example, like Josephus, this Roman time, the Jewish who are non-Christian, the Jewish historians that have a lot of records about, Jesus, this person, and about his resurrection, about his prosecution and executions. So a lot of people try to defend, So, but what my point trying to say here is because Jesus resurrected, 因為耶穌係復活咗 so that we can be resurrected. 所以我哋將來都可以復活。復活在我，生命在我，信我必人都必復活。This is also my own faith and belief that, we can have a better life. We can have a new life, 新天新地, whenever at the ends of the world. Now we are suffering and all this stuff. But one day, even after we die, we don't need to be scared for Christianity. We will be resurrected again. 即係我哋人係會再復活嚇。For example, like if your parents, your grandparents had died, if they got to know Jesus, they will come back to life again, and you can see them again in heaven. So this is the evidence, that because he has done that and he gave us this gift that we, it's a very important message for human being. Like so many people already proved that. Like I said, like it says in the video, 即係好多人係喺個 video 度講咧，即係嗰啲 evidence for Jesus was so many times more than 嗰啲蘇格拉底柏拉圖嗰啲 evidence 咧，係嗰啲著作嗰啲人嘅見證so many times more for Jesus than 嗰啲其他 historians 嗰啲 historical figures， 即係嗰啲蘇格拉底啊、柏拉圖啊嗰啲係嗰個證據仲少，但係啲人係對嗰啲柏拉圖啊、蘇格拉底係咪真係有存在過咧？係 people had no doubt about it， 即係冇人會 doubt 柏拉圖係咪真係有柏拉圖呢個人㗎？Even though 係好少嗰啲 evidence 啊 ，relatively， 但係啲人會 doubt 係咪真係有耶穌呢個人㗎？係嘛？ But then actually the evidence was so much, many times more. I want to share with you this. So I hope we can have a hope, for our lives, Okay, and will about hell. Okay, 講埋呢度啊，少少吓。Because this needs to be complete, for Christianity beliefs about the whole life. It's very interesting that I think Christianity is interesting because it's the only religion that explains everything that from the beginning of the world to the end of the world. It's the only religion that can explain so clearly about the whole journey of the whole universe. It's very interesting, I think. I also study a lot for Buddhism. I also study a lot for Taoism, for other religion I also study. But they are teachers, they are human beings. Next week we'll talk about that. They are human being teachers, but they couldn't explain to us, why this world exists, why the universe exists. But for Christianity, they tell you the whole story. Okay, and also they tell you there's hell. In traditional, I will share with you there are three traditional beliefs, three beliefs about hell. 即係就算基督徒咧都有3個唔同嘅論點啊，關於地獄嚇。Because for sharing the matter of life and death, we have to talk about that. I don't really like to talk about that. 冇咩人好中意講地獄㗎。We don't want to talk about hell, right? But we have to talk about it because it's a life and death education, right? So in Christianity, one of the most traditional belief, 即係最基礎、最傳統嘅 belief about hell is that it says in the Bible, it says hell is a lake of fire, 即係火湖啊，fire, and people who do not believe in God will be thrown to the lake of fire. This is what it says in the Bible. A lot of the places it says, in the traditional Catholic, 啲天主教徒啊，傳統嘅咧都會係咁樣講啊，即係係會係有黑暗啊，同神隔絕啊。You will be separated from God. It will be in the darkness, and you will be tortured forever, as if in the Revelation it says like you can not see day or night. You can be separated. You will be separated from God. But then recently, there are some scholars starting to oppose this theory 嚇，又最近期比較近期有啲人都會開始去質疑呢個理論嚇。Because somebody says that but God is so kind, God is good, God is a loving God, and eternal life is a gift. 即係永恆嘅生命咧係一個禮物嚟嘅，應該係嘛？ So if somebody going to suffer eternally, if God, for example, if God make you and then you don't want to believe in him, or you do certain bad things and you never believe in him, then you would go to hell and be burned forever. Personally, I also do not really support that. I don't really think it makes sense. That I don't think God will want to create something. You are a bad boy, then I will throw you to the fire and be burned for the rest of your life. Burn forever and ever. I don't really think that's true. But in the old traditional beliefs, in the Catholic beliefs, like a lot of people say that你信啦，唔信就會去落地獄㗎啦, like that. So there's a debate. And another point is that because Jesus, like I explained just now, Jesus is supposed to conquer evil. Then if he conquer evil, the Bible says that Jesus 係會打敗嗰啲邪惡嚇 on the cross. It should destroy evil once and for all. So after the final judgment, there should have no hell. This some scholars argue. So I just share with you a little bit. Okay, so a second theory about hell, 第二個 theory 咧就話咧係如果有啲人唔信嘅咧 ，for the people who not believe in God, who don't want to have relationship with God, who choose not to believe in God, will be going into annihilation. How do you pronounce that? Annihilation. 即係 that means you will be disappeared forever. 即係會係第二次嘅死啊。This in the Bible also mentioned about there's a second death. 即係有啲人話，如果你唔 if you choose not to want to go to heaven, you can choose to just die. You know, your soul, 即係你係有靈魂啊，你嘅靈魂啊 we will just choose to be terminated, right? Yeah, for example, just now I said about Jesus gonna be having the judgment in the final days. 你幻想一下 imagine, you know, Jesus come again tomorrow or now, that he would say, oh, if you want to believe in me, then you can go to heaven. 即係通常俾你如果耶穌喺你面前啊，佢話如果你信我咧，你就可以上天堂啦。通常喺你面前喎，即係去到 with his final judgment, right? If Jesus come again and he's so glorified and with all the angels and everybody, and then he raised everybody from the dead, like imagine that he raised everybody from the dead and 全部都起死回生啦。喂，大家信唔信我啊？如果係就去天堂啦，如果唔信就收工啦咁樣。So would you choose to go to heaven, or you want to choose to be terminated? You want to choose to die? 俾你會唔會點揀啊 ？Imagine 啊，你會點揀啊？咁有個老細梗係跟啦，係嘛？即係 you should for example 啦，but of course you still can choose. Then okay, this theory is that you won't be burned forever. You can choose. I want to sleep. I want to be disappeared. I don't want to go to heaven, or I don't want to go to hell. You can choose. Okay. So I think there's another theory. It says that, you know, there's a second death. You know, there's a second death. You can choose, you know, it is eternal punishment. Doesn't mean that everlasting punishment. Maybe it's just that you will cease to exist. 即係你可能係唔再存在啦。可能有啲人係邪惡啊，或者 maybe some people are evil, or they really do not want to believe in God. So if you die, you die lah. Okay. So if you do not believe there's a God anyway, so you cease to exist. 有人死如燈滅吓。Maybe there's another choice there. So another theory, thirdly, there's another theory called universalism. That means everybody will be saved. 有一個學派咧就話所有人都會得救嘅。Everybody goes to heaven. No punishment. You know, everybody will receive, like for example, like I said, if God comes today, now Jesus rise everything from the dead, 你即係嗰啲咩墳場啊，全部啲人起死回生啊。If you see now, everybody, all the dead comes alive, and I say, it's the end of the world now. I'm here, you know, everybody will be safe, you know, then you probably will choose, you know, to follow that one. And then, so the work of Jesus, God is actually destined to give goodness to people, and God is good. So if Christian promote that God is good, so there's a lot of people will say that, oh, eventually 即係點都好啦 somehow 總之最尾啲人都係全部都可以上天堂嘅，都可以得救嘅。This is a third theory. Okay, so why am I teaching you guys this? Maybe, you know, when the elderly talk with you, you will be equipped, you know, maybe the elderly, well, for the elderly people, they only have a few years to live, you know. Maybe some of them are 70 years old, 75 years old, 80 years old. They only have a few years to live. Maybe they would start to talk with you about this kind of topic, you know. So I hope you guys to be equipped. 你哋都有心理準備吓，自己都有對呢啲有啲知識吓 for Christianity. And then next week we will talk about the Chinese philosophy, and the week after we talk a bit about other Western philosophy. So you guys will be equipped. Okay, you have the knowledge when people share with you about their fear of death, and they are at the end, the end of their lives. So how are you going to react? How are you going to ask questions? 你自己都有少少底係嘛，都有少少知識係嘛？你自己完全都冇呢啲知識咧，咁你就點樣同人哋傾偈咧？係咪？ Yeah, so I hope you guys have a bit of. If you're interested, you can read more. You know, these brackets are Bible verses 即係聖經嘅啲 verses, or that's in the end you have some references. You can read more about it if you're interested.